Hello and welcome to Unhacked. I'm Bryan Graf, SVP of Compliance Advisory here at Abacode, and today we're going to talk about cyber insurance. What is cyber insurance? What does it cover? Why is it skyrocketing in price, even more than everything else nowadays? And how you can help your business mitigate the risk of skyrocketing cybersecurity insurance premiums or of the risk of being denied coverage altogether. So cyber insurance, cyber risk insurance, cyber liability insurance, there are a few different names for it depending on the company you speak to, the insurance provider, but it's bought by companies to cover losses from the two damaging aspects of cyber attacks. One is the data breach, the loss of data and stealing of data, and the remediation, litigation, and fines associated with those breaches. And two, operational loss from ransomware lockdowns. So the cost of remediation, investigation, the ransoms themselves, although increasingly cyber risk insurance is excluding ransoms from their coverage. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. So why are insurance premiums skyrocketing for cyber risk insurance? Well, a few things. The number of attacks is increasing. So depending on who you talk to, according to Fortune.com, governments worldwide saw an 1,800% increase in cyber attacks in 2021. The healthcare industry saw an over 700% increase in the number of cyber attacks just last year. And those numbers go up every year, and there's no signs of stopping. Another reason why insurance premiums are increasing is companies are completely reliant on IT systems, both internal and vendor systems, and the window for from the time you are attacked to the time your company goes completely bankrupt is shorter and shorter as the costs incurred go up every year. In 2021, the average cost of a cyber attack was $700,000 to $1.5 million for small and medium-sized businesses, and into the several million for enterprise organizations. And there aren't too many organizations that can incur that type of loss and keep going. And C, the barrier to entry to becoming a cyber attacker is completely non-existent. So 10 years ago, you needed to know something about computers to launch a cyber attack. Nowadays, you can go onto the dark web, download a script, or even log into a portal and set an attack as easy as you set a Spotify playlist. And if that's even too difficult for you, you can just pay someone else to do it. It is literally so easy that 9-year-olds can do it now, and 9-year-olds are doing it. So that's why insurance premiums are going higher. There are more attacks, the attacks cost more money year over year, and there are more cyber attackers entering the cyber attack job pool every year. So not only are companies facing higher premiums, but they're also finding that their cyber insurance may not pay for the ransom in order to get their data back and so they can get up and running again. In the past, insurance companies would have rather paid the ransom than incur all of the costs of rebuilding a company from scratch. That was just the easier way to get a company back to functionality. But nowadays, attackers are a lot more sophisticated. By paying the ransom doesn't mean you're in the clear. Usually there is a backdoor in the attack. They hold your data for ransom, then extort it back to you. They leak it online. So just paying the ransom isn't the end of the attack anymore. So because of this, a lot of companies are announced in 2021, and more will probably do so in 2022, that they will no longer pay the ransom because that no longer makes companies whole. There are also regulatory concerns that insurance companies face. They don't want to be doing business with criminal organizations, terrorist organizations, or rogue nation states. You don't want to be entering in a financial transaction with those organizations. So because of all this, cyber insurance companies are shifting the responsibility of preventing and reducing the impact of these cyber attacks onto the customer themselves, charging much higher premiums for organizations that don't have a high security posture and an effective cybersecurity program in place, or sometimes just denying coverage. So what are insurance companies demanding that their customers implement? And how can you ensure you pay the minimum cybersecurity insurance premiums and reduce the impact of an attack in case one happens to you? So Abacode deals with a lot of different cyber insurance companies, and over we're hearing the same four security mechanisms and security solutions that insurance companies are demanding that their customers have in place before they provide them with a cyber insurance policy. Number one is implementing a SIM, usually backed by a 24-hour security operations center. So if you've watched any of my videos, I always say the SIM is a fire alarm and the security operations center is the fire department monitoring 24 hours a day. The worst part of a cyber attack isn't the initial infection. It is the lack of detection of that infection causing it to go from one system through the entire network. So an attacker doesn't just infect a device and start the attack initially. They do recon, they install backdoors so that if their attack is detected and wiped, they have another entry into the network. They escalate privileges, and they don't attack until they know they can bring down the entire organization and steal data if possible. That way the business is at the mercy of the attackers and is more likely to pay the ransom. So the SIM helps prevent that single device infection from becoming a company-wide epidemic. It lets the organization deal with it at the system level instead of waiting for it to become a company-wide nightmare. So the second requirement that insurance companies are demanding of their customers is that they back up their data, encrypt it, and send it to an offsite solution. So many companies are performing backups of their systems, which is great. However, then they store those backups right next to the production systems or on the same infrastructure as a production system. So when they get attacked by ransomware and get a data breach, that backup data is infected and locked down just like the other systems is completely useless. So ensuring your data is backed up off-site so that it is not connected to your primary production systems helps ensure that you can restore your systems once your primary network gets infected and locked down. Now in this case, the attackers will still have the data from the primary system, which is still a problem, and that's why you still want to make sure a SIM is in place to prevent this from happening in the first place. The third requirement that insurance companies are demanding of their customers is that they implement multi-factor authentication. So any business must assume that eventually their credentials are going to get leaked and going to get stolen. So multi-factor is the best way to ensure that if your Office 365 hash passwords get leaked on the dark web, you can still prevent an attacker from accessing those accounts with those hash passwords. Again, multi-factor is a great tool. However, it's not foolproof. It still needs to be implemented in a secure manner, and it needs to be managed. And number 4 is implement security awareness training. Again, multi-factor is great. Secure passwords are great. However, if you can convince an employee to give them your password, you could probably also convince them to give you their one-time token, and then your multi-factor is useless. So making sure customers are aware of cyber attacks, that they understand that security is their responsibility. They need to be diligent and report unusual activity in their systems. If they see weird things going on in their email accounts, rules being created, that's a very sure sign that those accounts have been compromised. You need to make sure that they are drilled on this, that you simulate phishing attacks so that they can spot phishing email versus a regular email, and that will help prevent an attack from starting in the first place. So that's all we have for Unhacked. If you had any questions about cyber risk insurance, how you can mitigate an increase in your premiums, Abacode implements managed cybersecurity compliance programs that hit all of the requirements that cyber insurance companies are requiring of their customers. We can walk you through your breach risk, your ransomware risk, and help you implement a managed program that fits your organization according to the risk applied. So once again, I'm Bryan Graf with Abacode, and we'll see you next week on Unhacked.